John Hudson, we've been trying to keep track of what's been publicly stated. Obviously, we don't know what we don't know. You might know some of what we don't know, and we'll ask you about that. But in terms of a timeline, they have said, Trump said he could end it in days. We've heard 4 to 5 weeks, and we've heard, quote, much longer. In terms of why we went, we heard Rubio give the most sort of detailed response when he said because we knew Israel was going to strike and then Iran would retaliate. We heard Trump talk about regime change, and I think there's at least one other rationale that's been publicly articulated. Boots on the ground. Caroline Levitt, I'm not going to remove an option for the president that's on the table. Donald Trump speaking to the New York Post put that on the table. What is your understanding for why they can't have the same answers to the same oft-asked questions?
It's a great question. It's almost as if the administration is shopping around rationales for why this conflict happened. They've also been shopping around objectives for the conflict and then shopping around timelines. All of those things have resulted in different responses that the administration has offered. The only thing that I can assume is that they're trying to see what sticks and what seems to sound the best. I mean, you mentioned Secretary Rubio saying that one of the reasons why the administration did this is because they felt that Israel was going to attack. And if Israel attacked, then that would result in the United States taking in casualties from Iran so that they had to enter first. And that exploded in a lot of anger, especially in the MAGA base, which said it sounds like Rubio is saying the Israelis dragged us into this war. What happened to America first? Not to mention the anger on the parts of the left about that happening. And so then Trump rejected that. It truly looks like, Director Brennan used the word ad hocism. It's also ad hocism when it comes to testing out what sounds right to the American people. And I think that's largely a result of the negative polling surrounding where the public is on the United States getting engaged in another war in the Middle East, and the negative reaction that has happened within the MAGA base surrounding a new war with Iran.
Is this being driven? I mean, I guess you answered my question for me, John. I mean, it's being driven by reaction inside the MAGA base, which has been revolt might be too strong of a word, but the most public and high-level rejection of anything Trump has done in 10 years from folks like Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly, a political civil war between Sean Hannity and Mark Levin or Levine, I don't know how to say his last name, on one side, and Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens on the other. And then there's the weakness, the fecklessness that I think all Americans would not like when Marco Rubio went before Congress and said in closed and open door meetings that we had followed Israel into war, that because they were going to attack, we anticipated Iran would respond and we would be in danger. Is there anything in the mix that suggests a national security person thinking about U.S. national security, or is this all vibes and whims?
Vibes is a great word to introduce into this. And I think the most important question was there an imminent threat? Because that was the first thing that they put out there, and that would be one of the strongest rationales for going to war. I can tell you from my reporting, based on what's been happening in classified, closed door sessions between congressional staff and administration officials, they tried to really drill down on this point. Not when cameras were around, not when you could easily get a televised moment. And the response was no. The administration was not able to say that the Iranians were plotting to attack the United States first. They were not able to say that there was an imminent threat to our U.S. bases in the Middle East based on planning for an attack. What they rested this on when they were talking to professionals was that Iran's reconstitution of its ballistic missile program itself constituted an imminent threat. A lot of people would say that that's a significant stretch because you're talking about a conventional weapons program, which nations are allowed to have that. We might not like that our adversaries have missiles, but it's not what's seen, according to international law, as a justification to preemptively launch a massive bombing campaign that results in the assassination of the highest rungs of another country's military and political leadership.
Director Brennan, what do you assess to be Iran's capability to sustain its current level of strikes against American military installations, against America's allies, against, I guess, what we used to call soft targets in places like Dubai? What do you assess their capabilities to be to keep that up or accelerate their offensive?
Well, there's no doubt that their capabilities are being degraded by the massive and overwhelming demonstration of U.S. military power. But they're going to be opting for whatever capabilities they have, whether it be drones or whether it be other types of attacks. They see this really as a matter of survival. Why should they hold back then on anything they have? And I do think the next order is going to be terrorist attacks. They probably don't have things sort of off the shelf that they can launch, but who's to say that they don't have, in fact, capabilities and operatives or whatever in different parts of the world that could launch mortars or engage in IEDs or other types of things. So as I think their missile inventory is going to be decreased in terms of capability size, they're going to opt for other types of things. And they see that this is, time really is on their side because they're going to continue to withstand the barrage that they're facing. But again, they see this as, all out war. And so why should they hold back when Israel and the United States are not holding back on their side using their capabilities? Iran will resort to whatever capabilities they have remaining.
What do you hear when you hear Trump and Caroline Leavitt leave boots on the ground in Iran on the table? What does that look like?
To me, it sounds like they don't know what's going to happen in the future. And I think increasingly they're recognizing that they're not going to be able to achieve their objectives with just this aerial bombing campaign. There's just no way that's going to happen, whether they're talking about on their regime change or nuclear program, whatever else. But it's clear that the Trump administration's propaganda machine is in full sway right now. And it's really quite worrisome when, at a time of war, if you have a dishonest administration that is, fueling the disinformation out there, misrepresenting the facts, that is really, dangerous. And this is where it is up to Congress. I agree with Paul that we need to find a way to try to wrest from the administration this narrative that they are misrepresenting, again, the facts, not only in terms of the cause of the rationale for the war, but what is actually happening. And I do think that, again, the future is really quite fraught and uncertain, which is why I think they don't want to take anything off the table, because they don't know what their next move is. And by all accounts, there is no real good interagency process that's going to be bringing to the fore the expertise, the intelligence, the strategy that is really necessary to get out of this mess, which is really going to be tough to do.